I never thought 3 simple text messages could flip my entire world upside down, but that's exactly what happened. My name's Grayson Holt, and a few months ago, I learned that the worst kind of betrayal doesn't come crashing through your door. It slips quietly through the glow of a phone screen at 2 a.m. That night, I couldn't sleep. The air conditioning hummed like a distant train, and beside me, Tessa was breathing slow, peaceful. I reached for my phone, just to scroll, anything to make the hours move. Then her phone buzzed once, then twice, then again, 3 times in a row. It wasn't the vibration itself that caught me, it was the rhythm. People who text late at night usually do it once and wait. Whoever was on the other end of those 3 messages wasn't waiting for anything. I stared at the screen, lighting up her nightstand. The name just said M, work. My heart started doing that weird stutter it does when instinct is louder than logic. I told myself it was nothing, maybe her manager or some coworker in a different time zone. Still, my fingers moved before my brain could stop them. I picked up her phone. The first message said, "Still can't stop thinking about earlier." The second, "You looked incredible tonight." The third, "Wish I could see you again before the weekend." For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. My thumb hovered over the screen like I'd touched something burning. I remember looking at Tessa, her face half hidden by the pillow, the same woman who used to trace lazy circles on my chest when she couldn't fall asleep, the same woman who made playlists for our road trips and left sticky notes in my lunch bag that said, "Love you, idiot." I set the phone back down exactly where it had been. I didn't want to wake her. I didn't even know what I would say if she did. The rest of the night, I lay there pretending to be asleep. Every few minutes, my mind replayed those 3 lines. Each one was a needle sliding deeper. I started counting the number of late nights she'd been having at work, the time she'd said her phone died, the new perfume she'd started wearing. Patterns that never mattered suddenly formed a map I couldn't unsee. By morning, I had already decided I needed proof, or maybe I needed a reason to still believe in her. When she left for work, I followed about 15 minutes later, pretending I'd forgotten something downtown. I parked near her office building, the one with the big mirrored windows, and sat there like some desperate cliché, watching employees drift in with coffee cups and tired eyes. Then I saw her. Tessa. She wasn't alone. A man was walking beside her, tall, neat hair, laughing at something she said. She reached out and touched his arm. Just a small, familiar tap, the kind you give when you know exactly where the other person's body ends. It lasted less than a second, but it took a chunk out of me. I drove away before they could see me. For the rest of the day, I moved like a ghost through my own life. Meetings, phone calls, meaningless chatter. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected another revelation. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell my best friend, because saying it out loud would make it real. I just kept hearing those words again. Still can't stop thinking about earlier. That night, I tried acting normal. I asked about her day, about dinner, about the show we were halfway through on Netflix. She smiled, told me she was exhausted, that her boss had been on her all day. The lie came out smooth, practiced. I watched her pour wine and laugh at the wrong time during the show. Maybe she could feel my eyes on her, or maybe she'd already decided what version of herself I was allowed to see. Around midnight, she said she had to finish a report and went into the study. The door stayed half closed. I waited 10 minutes, then walked quietly down the hall. Her voice was soft but unmistakable. She was on the phone. Not a work call, not the clipped tone she used in meetings. It was low, playful, tender. I heard her say, "You're terrible," followed by a laugh I hadn't heard in weeks, the kind that used to belong to me. Something inside me broke in the smallest, quietest way possible. Not a scream, not even anger, just a slow, cold realization that whatever we had was already gone. I didn't confront her that night. I sat outside on the porch until the sky started turning gray, trying to decide what kind of man I wanted to be when morning came. Part of me wanted to storm in, demand names, demand reasons. The other part wanted to preserve the illusion a little longer, the version of us that existed before those 3 late texts. I knew whichever choice I made would define everything after. When she came out to find me, she looked surprised, almost guilty, like she'd seen a ghost. "You're up early," she said. I nodded, lied about not being able to sleep, and she kissed my cheek as if nothing in the world had shifted. Her lips were warm, mine were numb. That day, I finally told my friend Mason. We were sitting at a diner, the kind with sticky menus and endless coffee refills. I laid it all out, the texts, the phone call, the man outside her office. Mason listened without interrupting, then said, "Grayson, you sure you want to know everything? Because once you do, you can't go back." He was right, but I couldn't stop. I needed the truth more than I needed sleep. I installed a small tracking app on her phone that night, something discreet, something I hated myself for knowing how to do. A week passed. The pattern was too clean to ignore. Every Thursday, she left work and didn't head home until nearly midnight. The location pin always stopped at the same address, a small apartment complex across town. On the third Thursday, I followed. She parked outside Building C, walked up the stairs, and knocked. The door opened, and there he was, the man from her office. He smiled like a man who didn't know he was being watched. She stepped inside, and the door closed. I sat in the car for almost an hour, gripping the steering wheel so tight my fingers went white. My mind kept replaying our wedding vows, our first apartment, every promise we'd ever made. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just sat there listening to the ticking clock on the dashboard until it sounded like a countdown to something I couldn't name. When she finally came home after midnight, I pretended to be asleep again. She smelled faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. That's when I opened my laptop and started typing this story. Maybe to make sense of it, maybe to remind myself that the smallest things, 3 late texts, can expose the biggest lies.
It had been 3 days since I found those messages. 3 long, dragging days that stretched like hours of torture. Every time I looked at Tessa, I saw the words flash in my head again. "Can't wait to see you again, heart." It was like a knife that never stopped twisting. The first day, I said nothing. I wanted to believe there was an explanation. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, maybe it was a wrong number, maybe I was overthinking. But deep down, my gut knew. You don't text someone, "Can't wait to see you again," unless there's something more. Tessa moved around the house like nothing had happened. She laughed at the same TV shows, poured me coffee in the morning, even kissed my cheek before leaving for work. It all looked normal, but every smile of hers felt rehearsed now, like she was acting in a play I hadn't been invited to. That night, I sat on the couch staring at the clock. 9:42 p.m. She'd said she was meeting her co-workers for drinks after work. I told her, sure, how fun. But something inside me, some quiet voice that had been whispering all week, suddenly screamed, "Follow her." I hate that I did it, I really do. But sometimes the truth doesn't come to you unless you go looking for it. I drove out, keeping my headlights dim, just following the GPS dot I'd placed earlier when she wasn't watching. It led me to a small bar off 9th Street, the kind of place that smelled like beer and broken promises. Her car was there. I parked across the road, my hands shaking, heart pounding against my ribs. Then I saw her. She wasn't inside with coworkers. She was outside, standing by a silver Honda, laughing. That laugh, it used to be mine. The man she was talking to leaned closer, brushed her hair back, and she didn't move away. She smiled. And then she kissed him. I froze. It's strange. People always say that when you see something like that, you feel rage. But I didn't. Not right away. I felt empty, like my body just switched off. I stood there, staring, watching the woman I loved, the woman I married, being someone else entirely. After a few seconds, I walked back to my car, sat down, and just stared at the steering wheel. My chest hurt, but not in the way I expected. It was quieter than pain, just a heavy silence that filled every inch of me. When she came home that night, she looked tired, smiling softly, as if nothing happened. "Hey, you're still up?" she said. I nodded. "Yeah, couldn't sleep." She kissed my forehead and walked past me toward the bedroom. That lipstick, it wasn't the color she'd worn when she left. I didn't confront her right then. I couldn't, because if I said the words out loud, "I saw you," it would make it real, and I wasn't ready for that yet. I needed to know why. So the next day, I did something I never thought I would. I went through her phone again. This time, I didn't feel guilty. I scrolled through messages, call logs, everything, and there it was, a contact named Tyler, work. But the messages, they weren't about work. Tyler, last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. Tessa, me too, but we need to be careful. Tyler, he doesn't suspect anything, right? Tessa, no, he trusts me too much. I read those words over and over until my vision blurred. He trusts me too much. That line broke something in me, because she was right. I did trust her, with everything, with every dream, every weakness, every part of me. And she took that trust and built a lie out of it. That night, I sat in the kitchen, staring at my reflection in the window. I didn't recognize the man looking back. He looked older, tired, defeated. I realized that the version of me who believed in forever had died somewhere between her first lie and that last text. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind kept looping those messages. The way she smiled at him, the way she lied so easily when she came home. I decided tomorrow I was going to confront her. No yelling, no throwing things, just the truth. Cold, raw, and final. When morning came, she was making pancakes, humming softly like any other day. I sat down at the table, watched her move around the kitchen. She looked beautiful, and that made it worse. She turned, smiled. Okay? I said, yeah, just tired. Then I asked casually, hey, how's work been lately? She blinked. Busy, you know how it is. Still hanging out with your coworkers? Sometimes, yeah. Like Tyler? The way her face froze told me everything I needed to know. She dropped the spatula, the sound echoing through the quiet kitchen. Grayson? She whispered. Yeah, I said softly. I know. For a moment, there was just silence. No excuses, no apologies, just two people staring at the pieces of something they'd broken beyond repair. She started to cry. I didn't move, because the thing is, I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. When she whispered my name, Grayson, I felt something inside me twist, like a rubber band stretched too far. It was strange. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times in the past few days. Imagined myself yelling, breaking things, demanding answers. But when it finally came, I just felt empty. She stood there, eyes full of tears, and I said the one thing I'd been holding back for too long. How long, Tessa? Her lip trembled. It's not what you think. Don't, I cut in quietly. Please, just answer the question. She hesitated, staring at the floor. A few months. A few months. That meant all the dinners we had, all the I love yous, all the nights she held my hand. All of it had been a lie for months. I sat there in silence. I think part of her expected me to explode, maybe even throw something. But instead, I just nodded slowly and said, okay. That single word seemed to scare her more than any shouting could have. Grayson, I swear it wasn't supposed to happen, she said, stepping closer. It was stupid. It was just... I looked up at her, my voice calm but heavy. You don't accidentally fall into someone else's arms, Tessa. She started crying harder, but I couldn't even look at her. I just got up, walked past her, and went to the bedroom. I could hear her sobbing behind me, but I didn't stop. I opened the drawer, took out my small camera, the one I used to use for road trips and birthdays. It had a recording feature. I turned it on, pointed it at myself, and hit record. My name's Grayson Holt, I said softly. If you're watching this, you probably already know what happened. My wife cheated. I found out through 3 late-night texts. And this is how I'm ending it. Not my life, not like that. But the marriage, the lies, the pretending. I wasn't going to scream at her or post anything online. I was going to expose her the way she exposed me, with the truth. That afternoon, I called Tyler. Yeah, the guy she cheated with. I didn't know what I expected from him, maybe an apology, maybe denial, but he picked up on the second ring. "Hey man, who is this?" "It's Grayson, Tessa's husband." The line went dead silent. Then I heard him mumble, oh damn." "Yeah," I said, "oh damn." He tried to explain, to say it was just a mistake, that she told him we were separated. I laughed, actually laughed for the first time in days. Separated? We just celebrated our anniversary 3 weeks ago, man. He went quiet again. I could hear guilt in his voice, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. "I'm not calling to fight," I told him. "I'm calling to let you know she's all yours now. Hope she's worth what you lost." And I hung up. That night, I sat down at my desk and opened Reddit. I'd been reading stories there for years, stories about heartbreak, betrayal, revenge. I never thought I'd be one of them. But I needed to let it out somewhere people would listen without interrupting. So I wrote. I wrote about the 3 late texts, about the lies, about how trust isn't something you can rebuild once it's shattered. I didn't name her, I didn't have to. I just told the truth, raw and unfiltered. I ended the post with, "If you're reading this and you're ignoring the signs, don't. Sometimes silence isn't peace. It's just the sound of something dying quietly inside you." I hit post. I didn't expect what happened next. Within hours, it blew up. Thousands of people read it, commented, shared their own stories. One comment stuck with me. "You didn't lose her, man. You just lost someone who was pretending to love you." That one sentence changed everything for me. The next morning, Tessa packed her things. She tried to talk to me one last time, standing in the doorway with red eyes and shaking hands. "Grayson, I made a mistake. I'll regret it forever. Please, can we try?" I looked at her for a long time. I wanted to remember her face, the woman I thought I knew. Then I said, "You didn't just make a mistake, Tessa. You made a choice. And now, I'm making mine." She broke down, but I walked away. I didn't slam the door, didn't look back. A week later, I moved into a small apartment downtown. It was quiet, almost too quiet. But for the first time in months, the silence didn't hurt. I could finally breathe. Sometimes I still think about her, about how easily everything fell apart. But then I remember the night I posted that story, how strangers from around the world reached out, shared their pain, their survival, and I realized something important. Revenge doesn't always have to be cruel. Sometimes the best revenge is rebuilding yourself while they watch. A few months later, I got a message on Reddit. Someone had recognized me from the story. They said, "Hey man, I read your post when I was going through something similar. You helped me walk away too." That message hit me harder than anything. I realized my story, the pain, the heartbreak, it wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who's ever trusted the wrong person and survived it. So yeah, 3 late texts changed everything. They ended my marriage, broke my heart, and forced me to rebuild from scratch. But they also gave me back something I didn't even realize I'd lost: myself. And if you ask me today whether I'd take Tessa back, I'd say no. Because now I know, love isn't about who says I love you the most. It's about who means it when no one's watching. And as for Tessa, I hope she reads that post someday. I hope she sees how many people learned from her mistake. Because in a strange way, she gave me a voice I didn't know I had. I may have lost her, but I found the truth. And that's a trade I'll take any day.